Now let's go to the last one, which I'm going to tell you is the most heated of all of the proposal. And I would say, like, if we're going to put people have the most opinions, it's the digital literacy course. So talk about like the purpose of the digital literacy course, and then we can kind of dive into a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, digital literacy, and I really want to dive into it. And again, like all of these requirements, it is a work in progress. But digital literacy, I would say, is really encompassing 3 or 4 kind of core content ideas. I think one that is important is basic computer science concepts. And I think people say, well, why do I need to know that? Well, the reality is all of us have phones, devices, and we don't really know how they work, and we don't really know what they're doing. And so the idea that, again, basic computer programming, artificial intelligence is a big topic right now. That's a computer science concept that I think more of our students need to understand artificial intelligence. Algorithms, I think, is important. When we're on social media, there's a reason why sometimes it might seem like an echo chamber, or why certain advertisements seem to come up more often than others. I just don't think people really understand, or our students really understand, the power of the technology that they're accessing every day. And so I think that that's a really important piece of this. Another one is just general internet online safety. We feel like that's incredibly important. Being able to navigate sort of the challenges associated with mental health. Also understanding that when you're on TikTok, your information is being, collected, that you have a digital footprint. Sometimes if you're posting things or commenting on things or liking things, or, putting up certain pictures, those are things that an employer may find in 10 or 15 years from now, that you do have an online reputation that you want to be, cognizant of and be protecting. So that's an important piece of this. So that internet safety, just that general being safe online. And then finally, we've thought a lot about the fact that, one of the reasons why we have public schools is to create citizens, capable of self-government. And I know you talked earlier about encouraging people to be engaged in the process. When we were both in school, we got our information in our news, and we made informed decisions around being citizens and voting in a much different way than students do now. And so we feel like it's important that digital literacy captures that idea of, how do you determine the veracity of information that you're getting online? How do you be a savvy consumer of that information? So it's really kind of those 3 or 4 critical concepts that really drove us to put this proposal forward. It's what should all students know and do in 2024 and beyond. And having an exposure to these ideas is very important for them to be successful.
Okay. So I remember when you were presenting all of these things at the meeting that I attended, and I think it's important for people to know that the state gives kind of like a basic minimum graduation requirements. So the state says you've got, core subject areas. There are 29.
Yes.
And electives are 17.
Correct.
And so the minimum requirement to graduate
46 credits.
is 46 credits. Now, a school district can add to that,
and often do add to that pretty and so I think that is important too. I think a lot of the feedback we're getting is this change, that change, you're basically doing away with specific courses or specific things. And the reality is most of our districts go above and beyond that minimum graduation requirement. There are a lot of districts that are at 53, 54, 55 credits. We have some districts in the state that are upwards of the low 60s in terms of their credit requirements. And what they're doing there is that they're putting forward what they feel like are important courses at the local level that they want to be part of the diploma that they're conferring. Because at the end of the day, the district themselves, they're conferring that diploma on a student. And so they do add on graduation requirements. And so that's important, because when we were talking about, well, maybe we want to go up to 47 credits or 48, you just got to think on the other side of things, that's limiting the flexibility, not only of a student, because they're like, well, I got to take this statewide requirement versus this requirement that I wanted to take, but it also inhibits what a local level might want to offer. At the local level, what they might want to offer is a localized graduation requirement.
So the reason this is important is because of the 29 credits that the state requires, right now there is a communication requirement.
Correct.
And what that generally looks like on a district level is speech.
Correct. Or a lot of our smaller districts, and this was not a decision like we just kind of willy-nilly did. You're exactly right. So while it's communications is what it's called, at the local level, most districts that offer something that's in person, it's just a speech course. Mm-hmm. But then we discovered in kind of our work the last year, our last 14, 15 months, is that a lot of our small districts have the students take it on the Idaho Digital Learning Academy, which we kind of felt like, okay, that's that's kind of challenging too. And so to your point, I think that's when we were talking about, okay, what if we want to integrate digital literacy and we want to maximize flexibility, sort of what does that look like? What does that replace? And that's where we've, again, our requirement, what we put forward is having communication speech be either an elective, or if a district wants to do it at the local level, they're able to do that. And that's, I think, what you've seen a lot of districts that do have speech as a standalone course, that have several teachers that do it, they're going to make that a local requirement, whether that's Twin Falls. We were in Blaine County on our travels in October. I'm not going to speak for West Ada, but that's kind of what I've heard through the grapevine, is that they're going to retain that as a local requirement, the speech requirement. Then there's going to be other districts who are going to have that be an elective. And I think what we've heard is that typically those are districts that it's delivered through the Idaho Digital Learning Academy.
So there actually an Idaho Ed News article quoted the Department of Ed that said 1/3 of students in the state of Idaho are taking their speech, that communication requirement, through the IDLA.
Correct.
And as a matter of fact, 2 of my children took that through IDLA, and they actually went to West Ada.
And we think Idaho Digital Learning Academy is great.
It was
fantastic.
It's just,
again, it's those considerations, and it's those considerations you need to make when you're determining, we want to integrate digital literacy. We don't want to increase the burden on our districts, on our families, and our students. What does this look like? And this was the decision that was made. And I will say, we talked with a lot of folks about it. When you make changes to public policy, folks have thoughts and opinions about that, and that's okay. And that's why when, around the time when, you had come to a meeting that we had in the West Ada School District, we were in that same room, I want to say 2 weeks before, a meeting with speech and drama teachers about this proposal. And there was an expressed frustration that we were discounting speech, that we were basically eliminating it as a course that would be taught around the state. And I think that's kind of the furthest thing from the truth. It's just going to look different. And I think that that's important.
So,
or it could look different, I should say.
Right. So just kind of going back to like these requirements now, there's still going to be 29 core requirements from the state. But what you're proposing is to take away the speech requirement in its place,
digital literacy.
To replace with digital literacy. And what you're saying is that school districts can still retain that speech requirement if they choose.
Exactly.
Now, one of the things that like I've really reflected on.
And students can take it as an elective.
Right. It can be taken as an elective.
And they can take it through IDLA if that's the way. So I think you're going to kind of see both. Communications, though, well, I don't want to go ahead.
Okay.
I'll talk about communications.
So one of as I was, kind of preparing for this conversation and reading through articles, there are a couple of concerns. One concern that I have noticed in all of these different things and hearing from different people is, well, what's going to happen to our speech teachers? So will you speak to that? Like, how are you addressing the concern of what's going to happen to our speech teachers?
A couple of things. I mean, and again, one is that a lot of the districts that have well-established speech programs, they're wanting to retain those. I mean, I can't, that's a local decision, but I've heard that consistently, that we feel like speech is valuable. It's been, it's been a requirement or something that we've required now for 20 plus years. It's important. We want to retain that. Great. The other piece of this, and again, we've answered this question a lot, is, well, who will be teaching digital literacy? And there is a lot of flexibility, like we did with financial literacy, on who is able to teach digital literacy. And so I would say for a district or a charter school, that may be an avenue for some of those teachers. That is a potential avenue. But again, those are local decisions. And so we are not only maximizing flexibility by not adding another graduation requirement, but we're also ensuring that digital literacy can be delivered as flexibly as possible.
So let's just then, some of these school districts are not going to require speech. And they're going to, obviously pick up that digital literacy course. How are you responding to questions of, well, speech was used to teach soft skills.
Sure.
How are we going to now, how are you proposing that districts teach soft skills to students? What are you suggesting?
I don't think that speech was the only course that was teaching soft skills. And so we had talked earlier about the Future Readiness Project and how soft skills are integrated into that. I feel like those durable skills or soft skills are really being taught in a lot of different courses if being done right, and in the Future Readiness Project. I think the question that we've received a lot is, how are you going to ensure that those soft skills related to communications are being delivered? And if you look at our update to the graduation requirements, and you look at the way the standards are currently structured, where there's not standalone communication standards, but they're integrated already into English language arts, we do feel like there are plenty of avenues cross-curricularly to deliver those communications, or to ensure that those communication skills are being developed by their students. So there's going to be a spectrum. There's going to be districts that say, we can meet those standards in our English language arts courses and a few other courses. And then to your point, you're going to have districts that do that, but then also have maybe a requirement around a speech course, particularly if they have a well-established course. And so in our graduation requirements, we have integrated in this idea that communication still is going to be an expectation. Those durable skills around communications are still going to be an expectation. And again, they currently align with how the way the standards are written. And there's something that we're going to have to support over the next couple of years.
Well, and I know, so this is just like thoughts from Alexis, but when I look at, I started out as a teacher many years ago, and I am of the opinion that if a teacher is teaching correctly, like if they're doing it right, they are integrating those durable skills and communication skills into their class. Like there is no reason in my mind, and I'm telling you, I know it's happening, that teachers are putting their kids on a computer for the entire classroom. That in my mind should not be happening.
Sure.
Like I'm just saying this as a parent. In my mind, and as a former teacher, teachers need to be incorporating durable and communication skills into their classroom, because that is what makes learning engaging.
Exactly. And you think about other sort of more, I'm thinking about science. There has to be a communications component embedded in that, because it's easy to talk about, to just have basic conversations, but one of the biggest communications challenges is really conveying complex information, synthesizing it, creating, sort of packaging it up, and then being able to deliver it. So I think that's kind of the perspective we looked at, is we weighed all the different considerations. We weighed the fact that a lot of durable skills like communications are delivered, again, across courses and in different ways. And I think that that's where we, made the decision that digital literacy, would kind of be that 29th credit in the core academic requirements.
And
I've heard no one say, don't teach digital literacy either. It's just a matter of, okay, what is the future of communications or speech look like, and how is that delivered?
Well, and I think like I said, like I went through all of these different articles and kind of, conversations that I've had with people. And what I have heard most from parents is, yeah, we want our kids to be good digital citizens. And there's lots of ways that I think that schools teachers can make that look rigorous in the classroom. But parents want their kids to be interacting with students, with teachers.
Sure.
And I think one of the ways that happens personally is like the computer gets closed more.
Agreed.
And we have more interactive, project-based and
Agreed.
conversations in class. And that I really think needs to be incorporated intentionally into every class. I think it can be. And
Absolutely.
I think a lot of teachers are doing that.
Agreed.
But so to say, I mean, for me, the argument, when I hear the argument that like, oh, well, if we take away speech, then they're not going to get the communication or durable skills. Well, then I'm hearing that it's not being incorporated into the school, and that's not okay.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of where I sit on that.
Yeah.
Now you really know how I feel about it.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that because I think that's kind of, again, and when you're talking about making a change like this, that's just the process, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that again, that's why we were maximally transparent in visiting with groups, talking with them, because we didn't, and answering emails. I mean, we still receive emails from speech teachers who are asking us questions about this. It's okay. It's part of the process. And I think that that's what we need to, you need to work through what that looks like. I will also say, I mean, digital literacy is not maybe like keyboarding or some of these courses where everyone's just going to be in front of a computer all day. It's really an acknowledgement that technology, it's here, and it's going to be part of our lives. I mean, we heard a lot from folks who are like, why are you creating a course around technology when technology is everywhere? Well, it's because there's not a place where students can understand the power of the technology that they've been handed or that they're dealing with. And so that's a priority for us. And again, it goes back to basic computer science concepts so they understand how these things actually work, to just how do you stay safe? And how do you make sure that you're not putting a footprint out there, or you're posting things you shouldn't be, or you're protecting your privacy? How do you just be safe? How do you be safe online? And I would say that when we were developing digital literacy, I mean, we heard from a lot of different constituencies. Some more focused on that student behavioral health component. Others from the technology industry who want more students exposed to these concepts because, again, it's like other core academic requirements. It's something that students should have a basic understanding of, a jumping off point, no matter what sector they may work in, because technology is there and it's something that they need to navigate.
Yeah. And to your point, I mean, I know I'm always on my podcast, I'm always sharing like personal experiences, which I think is fantastic. It's important. And I was having a conversation. I was listening to a conversation recently. It was a young couple, and they have, very young children who aren't quite in the education system yet. And they were talking about how they like how there's computers in schools because, kids need to learn how to code or how to understand, to your point, AI and all these different things, how to make a digital footprint. And as I was listening to them, I could not help myself, and I kind of piped in. I was part of the conversation. And I just said, I just want to be really clear about what my high schoolers are experiencing on a computer. When my kids are on a computer in a classroom, they are learning how to use Microsoft Teams.
Sure.
They're learning how to submit an assignment. They are experiencing how to find it on a channel.
That's right.
And they are not learning how to code. They are not learning about their digital footprint. They are not learning about AI on their computer on a regular basis. If my child wants to learn those things, they have to take a different class.
Sure.
That's not what, a kid having a computer in school today, kind of what you have offered is that they're not automatically learning these things. No. It is important for us to intentionally teach children how to use a computer, how to understand AI,
how to stay safe,
on a computer, because those things are really important to parents right now. But I think I can appreciate that a parent is saying to you, why are we putting kids on a computer more?
Sure.
And I think that it's this balance of, the state is saying, hey, we need to teach a digital literacy course. This is the world that we live in today. But from my perspective as a parent and as someone who's in the school system, and I have lots of teacher friends and administrator friends, it's important for teachers, administrators, and parents to say, we want to make sure that kids are not on computers too much.
Yeah.
Right. And it's about being a part of the process to understand what is there and what is not there, and to really kind of pull apart these pieces.
And for students, again, digital literacy, I don't want to jump ahead of what districts and charter schools are going to do, but I mean, if it's offered in the 11th grade and the 12th grade, there's going to be information that's conveyed to students around the hazards and the way it changes sort of the way your brain works. And I mean, kind of the science behind this that I know is just kind of being ever kind of explored or found. We're exploring new things or finding out new things every day about how technology is affecting us. But that's something else that I think is important, right? Mm-hmm. I really think that is information that more of our students need to understand. Yep. That really, it's not a disclaimer that comes with this technology. It affects our attention spans. It affects, there's a reward component and there's a reason why we get addicted to those. Understanding everything behind that, I do think, is really important for our students.
So, is the state then coming up with the standards for this course? Have they already been developed? What are the behind the scenes on that?
The behind the scenes are, again, we have to kind of balance being respectful of the process and letting the legislature have their say, which is important, with the fact that when you partner with educators around the state, they want answers and they want them as soon as possible. So what we've done is we have compiled from a lot of different other content areas what draft or potential standards for this course could be. And that just kind of helps provide those folks just kind of an understanding of, okay, this is what it could look like. What we're going to do is, if it's approved, we're going to kind of formally bring those standards together. We've already worked on we're working on what a course would look like in the digital literacy space. That align with those standards. And then we've been working with a lot of partners, both in the state and nationally, around professional development, curriculum that could align with what those look like. So I'd say we're very much in the early stages of developing it, but we've already kind of thought through, okay, what are all the different components we would need to deliver this course statewide?
And then what about teacher certification for this course? What does that look like?
So it would be this course specifically, I'm just going to pull my notes here just
because you can.
I can.
You can pull your notes, Greg.
Yeah. If I can find it.
You're going to find it. I know you're
going to find it. It's just so I get the language correctly, but yeah, holders of a standard instructional certificate would be allowed or would be eligible to teach this, and then a charter school or a holder of a public charter school specific teacher certificate. So again, maximum flexibility. Now, when you say, well, any holder of a certificate can teach this, I know the first thing people say is, okay, well, wait a second here. Does that mean anyone's going to teach it? We're just trying to, again, maximize the flexibility for our districts and charter schools. And so much like financial literacy, where we provided a lot of flexibility, we want to provide a lot of flexibility here. But it is going to be up to the district or charter school to decide, okay, who's the best fit for this? And in a lot of cases, educators that are more technologically inclined are going to be the ones delivering this. But we wanted to make sure that, that districts felt like, particularly our really small districts, I mean, they're always having a challenge with delivering highly specialized courses. And so we needed to be respectful of them and their ability to deliver this course in person.
Can we anticipate that IDLA will be offering this?
Correct.
They
Yes,
will be.
They will be.
Okay.
I think that's just something that is just, every single core academic requirement provides that. But again, with the certification requirement we put forward, we tried to make sure that, like speech, that this wasn't something where you have a group that gets it in person versus a group that doesn't get it in person, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And IDLA is going to be helping us and has been helping us in the development of that kind of course that we wanted, or the template for a course that we want to put together. And they've also been weighing in on the standards that we're trying to put together for this course.